Probably first question, um, ilan sa inyo dito um, are knows web development? Yan. Medyo ito sa may likuran. So, yan. Sino dito yung more on like native app development? Wala masyadong konti. Right? So, yun. So, goal for this talk, so like at the end of this is for those that are web developers to be able to have this additional skill na magiging app developers na din kayo. So, di lang kayo basta web developer, app developer na din kayo. Right? So, my talk is about, yun nga, distributing progressive web app to app stores. But first, sino sa inyo, how many of you have heard about progressive web app? Ito, tanong na naman. How many? Wala pa. First time ngayon nyo lang narinig? Okay, mo first time. No? But yeah, siguro first time nyo siya narinig, pero ay siguro malamang sa malamang, many of you were already able to try it out. So, ito na yung question. How many of you have tried visiting youtube.com on desktop? Yan, medyo madami, di ba? And actually, if you try to visit it nang wala kayong internet, di ba usually you would see a dinosaur, wala kayong makita, hindi maggamit. Now, you would see this. Yan, so ito yung makikita niyo. So, still like YouTube, right? Pero instead of feeling it like a web app na parang, traditional web app na yung dinosaur yung nakita nyo, wala kayong internet, something, you would instead see this, right? Connect to the internet, something, then it still feels like YouTube. So this is your first taste of a progressive web app. Yan, no? So, ano ba yung features ng progressive web app? So first is, yun nga, you can install it, and it also can be just like any other native app, right? So basically, PWAs or progressive web apps are your web apps, but they're supercharged with native app-like capabilities or functionality. They can act like a web app, but can be a first-class citizen app if you want them to be. So ibig sabihin, yun nga yung kanina, pinakita ko sa inyo. Kunwari, you always use YouTube, and then you want it to be always there on your desktop, your phone, anytime you want, you can install it. So that's being a first-class citizen. It becomes a part of your OS or your desktop, right? If it earns your trust, of course. Diba? Meron naman na mga web apps na you only use once and then you don't use them again. But pinaka YouTube, you always tend to use them, lalo na pag naka-YouTube Premium kayo. Diba? It's very useful to you. So, you tend to install it, right? So, aside from just being a web app, it merges what's best about the web, being a web app, and then it also integrates what's best about native apps, diba, that we typically get from stores. So if you wanted to learn more about PWP, about progressive web app, just visit web.dev progressive web apps, and yung link, or pwpilipinas.org. I won't go very deep about it because this is going to be a little bit more technical than the introduction. So if you want an introduction more about it, you may visit those. But what makes a progressive web app, or what makes a web app a PWA? Parang more information, pero sinabi ko din. No? First is that it has to be responsive and performant in a sense that it loads fast, right? Because when you install apps, it's typically fast. So web app needs also to be fast. And also responsive, right? Because you can be having it on your phone, you can be having it on a desktop, so it has to be responsive. And next is it has to be secure. So this is already by default. It needs to be an HTTPS, so it has to be that. It also has like a web app manifest where you put all of the icons, other details about your app. It also has a service worker, which is like a script that acts like a middleman between the client, which could be a phone, desktop, whatever, and the network. So it actually makes the web app work offline. And also icons to make it look good on your home screen or your desktop, right? And additionally, web APIs to add a little bit more functionality or usefulness. But of course, these days, domain names are great, right? Having x.com as your domain name is really cool. But still, most people, especially like younger generation, tends to lean more towards uh, going to app stores. Like, let's say I have an app, then they'll most likely search it on an app store, right? And that's, for example, if you have a business, having an app on the app store is definitely a pogi point, right? It definitely adds plus to your business. And who doesn't want to have this, right? It's iba parang ano siya, like, oh, my app is available on Google Play or on the App Store, on the Microsoft Store, whatever, right? Sounds really cool. It makes you very legit, right? So the truth is, actually, many apps on the App Store, surprisingly, are just most of them are just web app wrappers, right? Some of them are just like, oh, let's make a site in WordPress, just package it, right? But the thing about today, or in the recent years, is that progressive web app makes this process much easier for us. So, yeah, so what we're going to discuss today is how we're going to bring your progressive web app to your favorite app stores, right? Of course, as we all know that app stores, right, caters to package applications, right? So if you were accustomed sa paggawa ng mga native apps, you tend to create a package and then put it on a store. So that's what that is what we are also going to do for this one, right? So here are some of the options that you have if you wanted to package your web app or progressive web app. First is the OG web view, right? So if you're a native developer, most likely you have encountered some type of interaction with this web view thing, right? Where it allows you to display HTML, CSS, JS thing on your native app, right? So you can embed web pages or show uh, anything that contains HTML, CSS, JS. So that's web view, right? So yeah, so it allows you to display web content as part of the activity layout, but as we all know that it does lack some features that the browsers has, right? And actually, it's very useful if you need total control over the what you're going to display on that. Like, let's say you wanted to have this specific feature that browsers cannot do. So the best probably thing to use is still WebView, right? So the thing about it is that it's very low level. So if you are not low level, but low level in the sense that you have to touch uh, the native code, right? Um, you have to do to basically make an object and call the link or something, or load the HTML file. But the sad thing about it is that it's too powerful uh, or too basic that you actually have to do some of the things that you wouldn't even think if you just wanted to just package your web app. You also have to think about like that, like handling pressing the back button, what happens, or enabling JavaScript, right? If you wanted to just basically wrap, I just wanted to wrap my web app, but you can't. You still have to handle all of these scenarios. So it can be tedious, right? So using WebView just to package your web app, it's just like building a new browser, right? That's it's really hard. Um, the thing about it is that we are not recommending using WebView anymore since it is very insecure because actually they can hijack what's being loaded on the browser, and you could actually put some malicious codes on it. That's why we do not recommend WebView anymore, because it's too powerful that if you don't know how to control that power, it might do unexpected things, right? And you don't want that. You just wanted, for example, you just have an e-commerce site, but like there's a hacker that when you click it, it would open x.com, Twitter. Anyway, if you wanted to learn more about WebView, it is really just available at the Android developer documentation. Just read on it. So this is the next gen way to actually create a package for your web apps, which is called Trusted Web Activity. So basically, it's a new way, right? It's a new way to open your web app components, such as your PWA from your Android app using protocol called custom tabs. That's right. Basically, custom tabs is like TLDR, like an in-app browser. So instead of you having to create this WebView instance, calling what do you call this, opening the web page, handing the back button, enabling JavaScript, blah, 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 blah. You don't have to do that anymore. Instead, you just have to include a certain activity instead of you having to create your own WebView thing, right? So the good thing about this is that it uses evergreen browsers like Chrome to actually do everything under the hood. So you don't have to think about it anymore. So it basically removes the hassle of using WebView. So it actually allows you to fully seamlessly integrate web content to your Android app. So some of the things that you could already do with it is you could do custom entrance and exit, so it still feels very much like a part of your app. And you could customize the toolbar so that it could match the branding, right, of your app. Let's say it's color red, you could have red as a color of the URL bar as well. And then you can also do color consistency. So if you have a specific color for dark mode, you can definitely do that as well. Additionally, you could also add custom action and entries on toolbar menus. For example, on this one, they added email the photographer. Probably this is more of, about photography app, right? You could add additional actions. And also, you could customize how it looks. You could change how the height is, right? So that's it. Um, who uses custom tabs? X uses custom tabs. So if you're going to look at the sample, so they customized it in a way that it has the tweet button on the URL bar, and they also added additional things to make it more useful in their specific context, right? So that's the thing about it. All right. So if you want to learn more about custom tabs, this is the link right there. Going back to Trusted Web Activity, basically Trusted Web Activity is just a custom tab that I've shown you earlier, but without the URL bar, right? Since you are going to make your PWA package, you don't want the URL bar because it still feels like a web app, right? What you want is to make it full screen, and Trusted Web Activity allows that. So, right? So basically, Trusted Web Activity allows you to package your app for Android without doing much native stuff work. So as you've seen earlier with the web view that I've shown you earlier, that you actually have to create that instance, call the page, handle the back button, handle the, it's a lot, right? It's a lot, but with the Trusted Web Activity, it's much easier for us to do. And it's also easy to implement. How easy? First is that you have to create a Trusted Web Activity project on your Android Studio, but at least target API level 16 and above, and you just need to complete the details like name, package name, API level, etc. If you're brave enough to install Android Studio on your laptop or your PC, uh, but you still don't want to touch too much code. This is for you. You just need to fill up the details, right? And then next is to get the TWA or Trusted Web Activity Support Library. So this is just the library that we would use to make it a TWA. And then next is to launch it. You just have to update Android manifest.xml to add that library that we use. So this is the example of it. So if you open your Android manifest file, you just have to add this activity. So they already made the activity. So instead of you creating another activity, adding the web view on it, blah blah blah, it's already built for you. So the only thing you have to do is to add it to your manifest, right? And then place the URL that you wanted to open, and then that's it. All right. Yeah. All right. So that's the first half portion of it. Next is since it's a trusted web activity, you need to establish trust between between your app and then your web app. And yeah, between the app that you're packaging and then the web app, which is hosted on a server somewhere. So you need to establish trust on it, hence being it called trusted web activity. The reason why custom tabs has this URL bar because you integrate it right on your app, and then it can open other URLs. That's why it's showing you the URL bar. But the thing about packaging it, making it full screen, is that in order for you to hide the URL bar, you need to establish that the app which is packaged is the same developer as that of the web app. So you have to establish that trust. So how do you do that, right? So you need to prepare a digital assets link on your website. So basically, what it is a JSON file that you have to upload on the well-known folder of your web app, and then it contains actually the fingerprint or the SHA-256 cert fingerprint of the app that you built. So Android or your OS would get that file, and then it would check if it matches the signature of that app. And if it matches, goodbye URL bar. But for example, you added this file and then they do not match. It is possible that you updated your site and then it doesn't match anymore, right? It would show the URL bar. So if it trusts it, it would hide the URL bar. If it doesn't, if it does, it would hide. If it, yeah, as long as it trusts it, it would hide it, right? So that's how trust is built, right? Needs two parties. All right. So how would you do, or how would you get, right, that signature? So there's actually a tool called Peter's Asset Link tool that you could get on Google Play. So you just have to install it and then select the app installed on your phone. Let's say you are testing. You would create the IPK file, right? Install it on your phone and then get the digital asset link ready. So just have to upload it and then you're good to go. All right. Next is once you're done with that, you establish trust. Next, you just have to create the icons, right? To make it shine. Of course, you need to have icons if you wanted to have it on your phone, right? You can use the Image Asset Studio on Android Studio for that, so you can have the proper sizes already made for you. So just make a large icon and then it would make like the proper sizes. And then lastly, generate a signed APK. So you could already generate your APK and then write its package. All right, if you wanted to learn more about it, you can definitely visit the link right there. All right, so the thing about it, right, it still uses too much, it's still too much work. You have to install Android Studio, you have to set it up, right? Setting it up takes a little bit of more time. And you're not really into seeing too much of these native codes. Well, we have some, and actually, you are more leaning towards command line tools like npm since you are a web developer, right? So this tool is for you. It's called Bubble Wrap. So it's a command line interface that helps developers to create a project for Android that actually launches a PWA, right? So it does the entire what I've said earlier for you, just with the CLI, right? So why would you choose this over doing the previous ones I've said earlier? It's just that you're more familiar with CLI and um, isn't too adventurous with Android Studio. So it's as easy as this, right? Installing it first. Who uses npm here? Yeah, right? So yeah, you're already almost an app developer. You just have to install Bubble Wrap, CLI, and then once that's done, create the create a project actually by using Bubble Wrap in it, and then adding the manifest. So if you have that app manifest that I said earlier, which is one of the components of a progressive web app, which contains the name of the app, the icons, etc. It would create the Android Studio project for you underneath, so you don't have to think about it anymore. And if you wanted to build it, just use Bubble Wrap Build. So you would have an APK afterwards. Ang dali, di ba? Ang tamad. But we're making it easier for you to become app developers. Easy. Right? So basically, it generates an Android project, and builds it, which is Play Store ready, right? And what the good thing about it is that it's open source, so you can definitely contribute to this project and also file some bugs if you encounter any. So that's the beauty of this tool, right? You could see what's happening under the hood, right? So if you wanted to get your hands dirty, not too much dirty since it's easier, there's actually code labs that you can visit and you can try it out, which is right here. Don't worry, I'll be sharing the slides with you later. So you can definitely explore it more in your free time, right? And if tamad ka pa din, mag-npm install, mag-npm, mag-bubble wrap init and mag-bubble wrap build, or sometimes wala ka talagang access with terminal, right, or a CLI. What you could use actually is PWA Builder. Yeah. Actually, it's a web-based tool that's founded by Microsoft to promote adoption of PWAs. So yeah, so Google, it's not just Google, it's Microsoft, and there's also Intel that's pushing PWAs forward, right? So it's basically a web tool. Ito web tool na to, imposible namang so it's already like a web tool that allows you to create packages of your progressive web app, and the only thing you have to do is to publish them on different stores. So it actually allows everyone to package their PWAs much easier. Package it on stores, right? So this is how it looks, and if you want to visit it, pwabuilder.com. So it's so easy. You just have to put your the address of your PWA there, click start, and then it would audit your progressive web app if it what they call this, if it passes, right? It has a certain criteria for becoming a PWA. So if it does, it would just show you a score, and it would also tell you what you need to add. If it's not yet a PWA, for example, you need to make it secure. You have to add the manifest. You have to add the service worker. It would tell you. So you can use it even you're just starting building your web app. So it's very helpful. And then once you have everything light up as green, just click package for stores, right? It's just a click away. So, all right. Uh, the good thing about this as well is it's so helpful that it actually even allows you to just generate your service worker. Just easy copy paste, right? Um, yeah, it also allows you to create different packages, not just for Android, but actually for Windows, iOS, MetaQuest as well, right? That's nice because you could target different platforms with just one simple tool. So let's start with Android. So for example, you added the you you did the audit, it passes, and then you go to the next step. It just has this form or fields that you have to add that allows you to tweak some of the things about it, like version code or the color, etc. So you could add it there, like the theme color. But most of the time, you don't have to do this anymore because you already placed it on your manifest. So, right? But if you wanted to override that, you could just change it there, right? Additionally, if you are used to Android app development, you do have to sign it, right? So this tool actually allows you to also do that. So if you have an existing key, you could just use it here. If you don't have, it will generate it for you. So what would it generate is your asset links, which you can upload, right? This is the link that I showed earlier. You just have to upload it to your site. You also have the key store, which you would use in case you wanted to update your app, right? And then it contains two files, which is an Android app bundle and then also an APK file. So you could use either, but moving forward, I believe they're leaning towards the Android app bundle. And yeah, so that's already the package for Android. So for Windows, similar thing. You just need to fill this up as well, but you do have to have the publisher account before you start with this one. Because you need to fill this up and then they get included on their package. So just fill that up. For Apple App Store, similar thing. Just fill it up as well, right? If you wanted to learn more about PWA Builder, you can visit the link, and there's also documentation on how you can do everything step by step, right? So once you already have your package, uh, whether you use PWA Builder, you use Bubble Wrap, you built it using Trusted Web Activity or WebView, you can now distribute it on different app stores, right? Let's go first with Google Play. So who uses Google Play here? Baka namang posible namang wala. Wala din. Baka ano kayo lahat? iPhone. O, di ba? Right? If you're using Android, then most likely it's impossible di kayo gumamit ng Google Play. So this is the official distribution platform for Chromebooks and Android devices and allows you to discover, right, and download apps to them. So you need to make an account on the Google Play console. Just visit that URL, and then you can distribute. But it requires a one-time fee of $25, which is around 1,440.75. Once you have that, or if you need help creating your account, there's the link there. Once you have that, you can just create app, fill in the details, fill in everything that's needed, make sure that your listing looks credible. Okay. Put your icons, etc. Make sure to also follow the rules of Google Play. And then once that's done, you have it listed on Google Play, right? You can already allow your customers to explore your business or using your app, just using what they've installed from Google Play. All right, next is Microsoft Store. So if you also have, this is great for enterprise applications, right? You can also distribute it via the Microsoft Store using Microsoft Partner Center. So Microsoft Store, just to introduce you, is the official distribution channel for Windows. So the Microsoft Partner Center is actually the portal where you can manage your app listings there. So it requires a one-time fee, which varies by country and by which type. So it could be either you're creating an individual account or a company account. So for here in the Philippines, it's 832 pesos for individuals and 4,400 for companies. So just same thing, just create your account, fill in the details. There's questionnaires there as well, so that you can have the ratings. Just fill that up, and then you could have it submitted. And then once you have it submitted, it's gonna be there, right? And if you wanted to learn more about it, you could just visit the link there as well. Lastly, the Apple App Store. How many of you uses iPhones? Wala pa din. Ang gamit nyo? Nokia? Right? If you're using iOS or you're naka-iPad kayo, Apple App Store is for you. Right? This is the official distribution channel for Mac, iOS, and iPad OS. Right? I haven't really had an experience with it since they're a little bit strict, as we all know, with accepting iOS apps. But that's not the case. They actually allow web apps, progressive web apps to be there as long as you follow their guidelines, as long as it feels very home, right, to iOS. Because the problem with most of the people that packages web app is that they don't feel at home with the OS where they're trying to publish it, right? If you're just using Bootstrap, most likely it's going to be rejected. But if you follow their human interface guidelines, has a really great usability experience, then right, why would they reject your application? It's just too good. So similar to this one, he used PWA Builder to create a package for his game, and he was able to publish it, right? So I was able to download it using the App Store on Mac OS, and it just feels really well built, right? It doesn't feel like a web app actually. It feels more, just really feels seamless, fast, performant, responsive. That's why it was approved. And if you wanted to learn more about App Store, on how you can develop or and publish for it, visit the URL there. So, all right, some reminders before I finish. So, of course, the goal is to distribute progressive web apps. So, do not ever distribute published websites on any app store. So, kung Hello World lang naman yung laman, huwag mo na i-publish kasi sayang. Kasi mag Hello World lang yun. Diba? Dapat, syempre, dapat may it should be interactive, it should be useful, diba? If it's not useful, it's better off just a website, right? And also make sure to abide by the policies of the store. Since it's their store, they actively curate it, they actively maintain it. So make sure to follow it. For Google Play, there's the link that you could check. Also, try as much as possible to follow their design guidelines, which is right there for Apple. Make sure that it uses the look or the aesthetic, right, of the platform you're trying to build. So that's very important. And also design PWAs to be apps with complete offline functionality, because most of them, or some of them, since it's mobile, right, they turn off their data, or sometimes there's just no Wi-Fi connection. So it's just better to really build for those case scenarios. And also optimize for low speed because of what I've said earlier. And lastly, to make an awesome app as always. All right, if you wanted to access the slides, you can download it by visiting bit.ly/IOX Bulacan _Andre. And yeah, thank you. And hopefully, since you listened to this talk, you are now not just a web developer, you're app developers now. Thank you very much.